1964, Walter Cronkite said that in order to seek the truth, you have to tell both sides of the story.
We're going to launch this show in the middle of the worst public health crisis this country has seen in a century.
20 minutes till air.
We fit into an interesting space in primetime because most of that bandwidth is consumed by opinion and talk.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, what's going on, Clark? How you doing, buddy?
So 43, where is she?
She's there.
Once you do your first hit for the bar testimony, we'll bring you over here.
Can I see 44, please? Rob, good. Thank you. 46 at the weather wall. Lovely. Watch shading on 46.
NewsNation is all about news, absent of bias, absent of opinion.
We're 2.5 minutes away from air. After I cut off of you on 42, you're going to come out to a 3-shot. After I cut off of 44, Rob's going to the main desk.
I think we are so right now hyper-focused on politics. There's so much other news out there on a daily basis.
Hey, Stan Negevin by. Joe, can you hear me? Thank you.
I've had several people say to me already, this show is exactly what I've been looking for. I don't want someone to tell me how to think. Tell me the news.
Turn the lights on in the weather center, please. Who's in the background there? Who's walking around?
There's a million people at the weather
Get
wall.
the people out of there.
The hard part is behind the scenes. We do the light lifting. The people you don't see do the heavy lifting.
We're all good. 1 minute to air.
Viewers should know that, and on-air people should remember that.
45.
Okay, she knows she's coming out to camera 43. Joe knows he's coming out to 42. Okay, 30 seconds.
I hope that they feel it's trustworthy. I hope that they feel it's entertaining. We are going to deliver the news without the bias.
Hi team, let's rock and roll.
Have a good show, everyone.
That are different.
In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Ready, camera 43. 3, 2, 1. Fade up 43 music.
Good evening, I'm Marnie Hughes.
Ready, 42.
Off the coast of Maine dies after being attacked by a great
The building of NewsNation, for me, starts in October of last year when we first presented the idea. So we called it Project Neutral. And the reason we called it Project Neutral was because we're so sick and tired of the polarization of news. News should not be polarizing. I approached our chairman and CEO, Perry Sook, about using the assets of our newsrooms. When Nexstar said they were buying Tribune, we were going to put together 110 newsrooms, 5,400 reporters, a bunch of helicopters, satellite trucks, and it made sense to figure out what to do next, utilizing the strengths of all those assets. About 3 or 4 weeks after that meeting, I'm sitting in my office and Jen Lyons, who's one of the most accomplished local news directors in television, was in my office and she said,
Hey, you're in charge of WGN America. You know what you really should do? You should do a newscast in primetime, a national newscast that's unbiased.
I had actually planned on approaching Jen about the position anyway, and she made it real easy for me.
A couple weeks later, here I am, I'm working for WGN America because we kind of had the same thought.
We've fallen into the trap of taking a big story and everyone having an opinion on it, everyone shouting, everyone talking about issues, but not really understanding the issue.
It became inherently clear as I would watch the cable news networks to try and find out what was going on, I couldn't find out what was going on.
They kind of abandoned news a long time ago when you look at the other cable news channels.
And that's what led me to say there needs to be a national newscast because there's not enough information. It's only centered on DC and politics.
There's a lot that happens in the middle of the country, and we're going to be able to fill that void.
It's so funny because when we set out to do this project, so many people are like, how are you going to do that? And it's simple. This is what we learned in school.
You know, in my journalism class, we were trained a certain way, and that was to report facts without bias.
This is what journalism is supposed to be. And this is what local journalism, local newsrooms do right now. They're not telling people how to think. It's the cable network model that we're not going to do.
It hasn't been done in a long time, and it has not been done to this scale.
So we announced in January 15th, that we were going to do this project. I flew to New York, I flew to DC, we kind of started getting everything to go, and then, boom.
The pandemic hit right as we were hitting the gas on this thing.
And it brought everything to a screeching halt. But we had to keep going. We had a deadline. We knew we were going to put this on the air.
Questions? Anyone have a fever, cough, or shortness of breath? Nope. Been in contact with anyone known to have COVID-19? In the last 14 days, have you traveled to a known level 3 hotspot? Perfect. First and last.
98.4.
99.1.
97.8.
This is the Bramco safety orientation. Workers must comply with all OSHA regulations. Hard hat, safety glasses, long sleeve shirt, long pants, and work boots required at all times.
With coronavirus going around, don't wander anywhere you don't need to be within the building. It is an active news studio.
Started the project second week of March. We were here a couple weeks, and that's when the COVID-19 really hit hard.
COVID-19 was such a curveball, and as we were planning to build this newsroom, it became suddenly urgent.
We left for a week. Between Nexstar, WGN, Bramco, we all tried to figure out the next step. How do we get the work done? How do we keep people safe? There was some very good protocol put together. Face masks became mandatory. The wristbands are for answering the questions properly. Not long after we got that started, they brought in the temperature checks. We staggered start time so that everybody wasn't coming in at the same time. We'd have crews starting at 6, 7, 8 o'clock so that it gave people an opportunity to get through the protocol and get to work and be productive.
And in a strange way, it was nice to be able to hire so many people when so many people were losing jobs.
With all the cancellations from all the concerts, plays, everything else, the stagehands were not in a good spot, and this was this put a lot of guys to work for quite some time.
It actually felt good that we were in the hiring phase, we had construction when everyone else was in shutdown mode. It slowed us down a little bit, but we were able to stay on course.
The schedule was extremely tight. And when we got involved in the project, they had a rough idea what they wanted here, but we didn't have drawings for what we were going to build, but the demolition got started.
A small team at Channel 9 got together and we kind of sketched one out.
We sat in a room with the construction crews, with the designers, with the musicians, with the graphic artists, and it was just a very open-ended conversation. And within a few weeks, they came back with drawings.
And we have these 6 screens here, which can go to every city in America that we're covering or wherever the top story is.
The set is modern, it's clean, it has beautiful technology.
Time zones up here, we digitize those.
It's really something I've never seen before. We kind of came up with a small version of it and then we put it on steroids basically when we took it to the set designer.
I think it'll just help our storytelling and just showing the beauty of our country, and we can really make it as big as we can imagine.
When you come in, there's going to be all these monitors, and so I'll just walk you through the show so you guys have in your head what we're going to do. We'll be like, good evening, there's a pandemic, and in St. Louis they're worried about school.
Jen's currently showing our director what we got going on with the overall set.
The nicer the home, the kind of the better experience there may be.
And then those monitors, so at the end of, we've got more on NewsNation coming up. As we're saying that, the monitors slowly are automated and they'll go flat.
Early in April, we had construction documents to go ahead and start the process of building the set. But even at that point, there were still things that we didn't know.
If there's a way to be able to recess is not the word, but maybe can those drop down any further than that?
It's too high.
It's at 32 inches.
Hey Jen, how does the keyboard tray feel?
That feels fine.
We have a lot of working space in here that we can do.
I think that looks okay, right? Don't you think?
Election night, breaking news coverage, weather events. This is a very versatile set.
This is the main tube shot.
Okay.
Skyline is behind me. And if we were to add the meteorologist and the breaking news anchor, where would they go?
You're real tight to your two guests. If you come off of them, it's a better looking shot. If you're working with 3 cameras, you can do a 4 shot, a single, or a 2.
So my only thought is on election night, where are our panelists going to be and how we're going to produce election night with a couple of other people on the set.
People don't watch for the set, they watch for the content, but the set is the living room. It's not about how beautiful and glamorous the house is, it's the company that they're with.
I can tell you that I've never built something like this before, all over a Zoom.
Hey everybody, yeah, I'll take that one. So
I think we only met 4 people in person that we hired before COVID-19 shut everything down.
We did Zoom call after Zoom call after Zoom call to try and find the right people. And it's kind of amazing. I never thought we could do it.
And so suddenly I was hiring, our news anchors, sight unseen. They never met me in person. They never came to our building.
We didn't want to look for anchors that were branded with any specific network. We wanted to look for a team that had done a lot of local news.
I approached them. I heard NewsNation was happening and I wanted to be part of it.
I saw a write-up on one of the websites that covers TV news. Told my agent, sniff around, see what these folks in Chicago are up to.
I was interested in this project from the jump. I went to Sandy and Jen and said, I don't know what you're looking for or where you are in this process, but I'm interested.
Usually you have people come in and sit on set next to the person that you're trying to fill, and usually you're trying to fill one hole, not an entire cast.
What are your favorite gestures when you're doing the forecast?
I'm a big fan of the warm air from the south.
We got on Zoom with Albert, and within 10 minutes, Jennifer offered him a plane ticket to come and fly to Chicago. And I just remember laughing. I just thought, well, that's blown our hole.
It was an email from Jennifer Lyons on a Wednesday, a Zoom call on a Thursday, and the next Monday I was here in Chicago interviewing, and the week after that it was signing paperwork.
We basically hired him within 4 days of meeting him.
And I think all he does is watches the weather.
We went out, did Marnie tell you about dinner the other night? A handful of us went out for dinner the other night, and Albert and Gerard, our 2 meteorologists, were with us. And you could tell the clouds were gathering, and these 2 were on their phones on the radar. The waiter brought our food, and Albert said, you might want to move us under some cover, the rain's coming. And the waiter said, how long do we have? And Albert said, 12 minutes. And 12 minutes later, here came the rain.
People can smell when something is forced or phony or an act, or you're just turning it on because the cameras are on. When it's real and genuine and organic, I think that comes across.
We are passionate about what we do, we're dedicated to our mission, and we're gonna have some fun along the way.
Everyone up on that desk is a seasoned professional, but we're also all, I think, good people who take the job seriously, but also know when to have fun and, again, to be authentic and relatable and human.
What is your go-to dance move?
Oh, Marnie, well played.
You just work, I just, you were going to call it, and you got a drink, you're just kind of just...
Stuff like this, Albert, you got to deal with it.
There were so many people who were interested, and the amount of resumes we got was insane.
And Sandy, the news director, to show you the power of national exposure, said, I have to admit, I'm fangirling a little bit right now because I was a morning EP when you were doing that overnight show, and I thought you were great on that show.
I mean, Rob Nelson is one of New York's best, and we were excited that he wanted to move to Chicago.
The offer came in March, contract signed in April, and here we sit.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rob Nelson is in the house.
They took a leap of faith and said yes, and so we started hiring over the computer, and it was extraordinary.
And some of our people that have come, producers and talent, they've never been to Chicago before. And I said, trust us, we're gonna do it.
I left Seattle after 8 years on the evening news.
Born and raised in southern New Jersey.
I was raised in Texas, my entire career in Texas.
For me, it was a leap of faith to leave a job and people that I loved.
Marnie Hughes was very popular in Seattle, but she's worked in Fort Wayne, and she's worked in other Midwest markets.
I grew up in small town America, and I think that has prepared me for what we're doing with NewsNation and who we want to reach.
We were picturing her with Joe, and we hadn't even hired Joe yet.
Joe Donlin, came from the Pacific Northwest and worked in Chicago.
I knew Jen and Sandy. They had hired me in Chicago. I trusted them, and I knew that if anyone could do this, it's the two of them. And I said, if I'm lucky enough to get this opportunity, I am all in.
Sign-in sheet is going around somewhere. Make sure you signed in again so I know who not to yell at. Starting on the 3-week, I think everybody knows we're just about wrapped up at Studio 3. Second floor newsroom. Overhead rough-ins are moving forward. I requested the sprinkler guy to be here tomorrow. I coordinate, right? So I don't necessarily know everything about everything, and I'm the first to admit that. But I ask the right questions, I get the right information, and we pass that information to the proper people.
They used to joke that I produced by committee. I would talk to everyone about it, and then we would bubble up to the top what was the story of the day. We're doing political stories, but we're not super political. That's how I am. I like everyone else I'm generally the person that will say, well, what do you think? And I hear them out because I want to hear what other people say, because I'm not the smartest person in the room.
Really enjoyed a job like this because it was pushing the envelope of what I do. It pushed me to investigate and learn, and it's what makes it interesting.
You know, if you'd have told me at that meeting that we would be seriously talking about structural reinforcements to the 1960s building to support a set, I probably would have started drinking sooner. Yeah.
A lot of times when we take jobs, people before us laid those roads. And your job is to improve it, don't screw it up.
Everyone, this is our temporary newsroom.
Hi, all.
Very suck.
We're committed on building this out, and I want this to be a project, a broadcast, a newscast that you're proud of every day, and you're proud to say you come to work here, and that we are true to our mission, and you can say that we really accomplished something that nobody else has done, and that is to put news on the way that news used to be done, which was absent bias and just the facts. And so, again, congratulations on being part of the first wave to hit the beaches at Normandy here, and I'll be back a couple times in August when we're into rehearsals.
It's a lot of work. It's not like just coming to work at a TV station and taking over the newsroom. Jen has had to build something from scratch.
The construction has been unbelievable. The pace at which they're able to work, sometimes 3 shifts a day, so 24 hours a day, it has gone up quicker than I could have ever imagined. And it's exceptional. The craftsmanship has been just beautiful.
We're going to start having the editorial meetings every day. We're going to pretend like it's the real deal, and we're going to discuss the ideas, discuss what we need to get, how are we going to make it fact-driven and not opinion-driven, and making sure we're getting all sides of the story, not just the side that we think we should have. This will be healthy discussions. Everybody's opinion counts. We won't discount anyone, we'll just have the discussion, so speak up. So here we go. And Richard's going to run this, so go ahead, Richard, you're on.
This is a bigger meeting than it's normally going to be, I'm going to say, because all your zone people will be spread out across the day. I think we'll start with the digital people just to see what's trending, and we'll do the zone producers, talk to their zones, then we'll go to the supervising producers, and anybody else can jump in, and we'll go from there. So digital, what do we got? Anything?
Snow in Wyoming.
Really?
Yeah, that's #1 post at Nexstar right now.
Run it.
I think we will get the benefit of a lot of hard work at the local level. All of these Nexstar stations, more than 100 of them, and 5,400 journalists are working hard every day to create this interesting content. And what we're doing is sort of observing from 30,000 feet all of this content across the country.
You ever heard of Lake Orville?
No.
Yeah, it's too bad. You should have. sometime in early 2017 after Trump had gotten in. I saw the ratings in Sacramento going through the roof and I couldn't figure out why. So I called the general manager and she told me, well, Lake Orville is why we're wall-to-wall coverage. If this dam breaks, thousands of homes are gonna be lost, billions of dollars in destruction, people are gonna die. I said, how come I've never heard of it? Because they were too busy covering the first 4 weeks of the Trump administration. That's why.
I think if the TV industry has succeeded in making two phrases meaningless at this point, breaking news and exclusive. They slap that graphic and that label on everything.
Our responsibility is to communicate, to report the facts, and to listen very closely to what's happening so that you at home can understand what's unfolding right before your eyes.
I've heard people ask, is there room for you in this center lane? And I would argue there's plenty of room because we're really the only ones in it.
And at the end of the day, if you watch our newscast and you agree with something and you disagree with something, then we have done our jobs because we've told both sides.
The question is, will people watch? They say this is what they want. We're about to find out.
It's a lot of people working together to gather the news. They're making beat calls, they're finding out what's going on, they're getting information from their sources. And the nice thing about Nexstar and NewsNation is that people are working in their community. So the journalists are gathering the news in their community.
I want to look at this as sort of a local newscast for the nation.
These aren't correspondents who parachute in for a few days, cover the story, and then go back to New York, go back to DC, go back to LA. These are reporters who know the community.
And then we have zone managers, and their sole job is to pay attention to their zone of the United States and work with our newsrooms, what's bubbling up in each community.
Facebook took it down, YouTube took it down. It's more than a one thing, you know.
And there's a saying I learned long ago when I was in journalism school that if your mother says she loves you, check it out.
So one of the things that we looked at was unconscious bias, and we needed to figure out how we can remove it even down to the word, because every word matters.
We have one priority, and that's to deliver you facts without bias. We have people to fact check us.
Was it a press conference, or was it just them literally saying hydrochloroquine is a cure for the coronavirus?
It was kind of like a news.
We have people who will fact check. I'm not in the newsroom, but if I was, they'd be fact checking me.
I'll give you an example of how this is, okay, this is, you know, seems really straightforward, but remember the other day when 150 health experts urged the country to shut down? Mm-hmm. Who were those health experts?
Right.
We are an advocate for the viewer. Our agenda does not matter.
So it's facts and being right on track with the message and the information, but it's also beautifully told stories that people want to stop and watch.
So the NewsNation app is going to be a 24/7 digital app, and it's very important. We have an audio component for people who are jogging, they're in their car, take a train in a big city. I want to make sure that you can press listen and get an updated newscast once an hour, 24 hours a day.
People live busy lives. They're constantly on the go, and I know in my own house we're multitasking, so we have to reach people where they are.
And then it's also, we're about entertaining.
We'll have to use the radio team, but at least they're radio people. You got a radio cast, a quality audio cast for people on the go. It's important folks know that we're there for them 7 nights a week, and that includes every holiday. We grab a wonderful weekend team.
They are devoting as many resources to the weekend show as they are to the weekday show. 4 different personalities on that show, but they're going to develop their own chemistry and their own style.
Rutabaga is going down. She just doesn't know it yet. She's a player. Don't let her fool you.
We'll be live Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. We're doing news 7 nights a week, 365 days a year.
We're all walking into this as the new kid in class. But here's the thing, the school is new too.
There are people behind the scenes working hours and days and often weeks to produce what you see when you tune into a newscast.
Right, there's this shot here. This would be as far wide as we can go. Can you pan up again and show the other shot where we see the lighting grid?
Every detail is important, from the video that we shoot, the interviews that we do, the words that we choose, the graphics that are on the screen.
So if we take a look at our logo, NewsNation, very clean, very minimal, but very bold.
Those are all people behind the scenes working together to make sure that you're getting the best information.
So there really, to me, there hasn't been that point where you wake up and go, wow, look what we've done. Because every day there's a big changing event. Tonight there will be rehearsals. Tomorrow night there will be weekend rehearsals.
We've been proceeding here as if we're on the air each night.
And so this thing, I don't really know. I think it'll hit me once it's on the air. I think it's hitting Jen right now as we're in rehearsals. It's getting, 15, 16-hour days. It's a grind because we want to get it right.
Even though we aren't on the air, we're going through it every day as if we are.
Stand by, ready camera 44, ready music.
Starting our show in 10 seconds.
10, 9, 8, 7.
I'd say the first year, we're going to develop, we're going to evolve.
6, 5, 4.
How it all comes together. There's a trillion moving pieces to it.
3, 2, 1.
We're going to do what we do, and we're going to focus on our mission, and we're going to do the best we can.
Fade up 44, music cue.
NewsNation will be a place people can turn to for news they trust from people they know.
And look, just by virtue of the time we're on, we are going to be competing against some of the biggest names in television.
Ready to pan. And pan.
Some of the biggest networks. They have a big head start, but that's not going to keep us from what we're doing. I think there is a place for what we're doing, and I'm not going to worry about what anyone else is doing. I'm going to worry about what we're doing.
Good question. It is Tuesday, August 4th. Welcome to NewsNation.